You must first understand the immense value that resides within you, the value that is often hidden behind the noise of the world and the opinions of others. Each person has a unique combination of skills, experiences, and perspectives that no one else can replicate, and yet so many people walk through life unaware of their own potential, unaware of the treasures they carry within themselves. Recognizing your worth is not about arrogance or thinking you are better than anyone else. It is about understanding that your time, energy, talents, and presence have significance. And when you fully acknowledge that significance, you begin to live from a place of power rather than a place of need. Too often, people allow the opinions, judgments, and behavior of others to define how they feel about themselves, to dictate their self-esteem, and to diminish their confidence. But your worth is not determined by what someone else says, how they treat you, or whether they notice your contributions. Your worth is inherent, unchangeable, and infinite. And once you embrace that truth, everything in your life begins to shift. Many people give themselves away for free, offering their time, attention, and love to those who do not appreciate it. They bend over backward to make others happy, to gain approval, or to avoid conflict, and in doing so, they slowly chip away at their own sense of self. They forget that when you fail to recognize your own value, you create a vacuum in your life where people can take advantage, where your energy is drained, and where your confidence diminishes. But when you truly recognize your worth, you start making choices that honor who you are. You start saying no to situations, commitments, and people that do not respect you. You begin to see that your presence matters, that your voice deserves to be heard, and that your efforts should be met with acknowledgement, gratitude, and fairness. Recognizing your worth transforms the way you interact with the world. You no longer settle for being overlooked, ignored, or undervalued because you know that your contributions matter, that your time is valuable, and that your energy is sacred. Your worth is also tied to the realization that you cannot pour from an empty cup. If you are constantly giving without regard for your own needs, you are signaling to the world that your value is optional. But when you recognize your worth, you understand that self-care, self-respect, and self-investment are not luxuries, they are necessities. You begin to set standards for how others can treat you, not out of pride, but out of self-respect. You learn that the way people respond to your value is a reflection of their understanding, not your deficiency. You may encounter resistance, criticism, or even hostility when you start asserting your worth, because the world is full of people who want to take advantage of generosity and kindness without offering respect in return. But this is exactly why knowing your worth is essential. It gives you the courage to stand firm, to refuse to be diminished, and to insist on the recognition you deserve. Recognizing your worth is also about embracing the gifts, talents, and abilities that make you unique. Many people compare themselves to others, looking outward for validation instead of looking inward for understanding. They overlook the skills and insights that only they possess and instead focus on what they lack compared to someone else. But when you shift your perspective and focus on your own intrinsic value, you begin to cultivate a sense of confidence that is unshakable. You begin to see that your experiences, both good and bad, have equipped you with lessons, resilience, and strength that no one else has in quite the same way. This awareness transforms your relationships, your career, and your personal growth. Because when you know your worth, you refuse to settle for less than what you deserve. Every choice you make, every boundary you set, and every step you take is influenced by the degree to which you recognize your value. People who fail to acknowledge their worth are often trapped in cycles of being taken for granted, feeling undervalued, or remaining in environments that diminish their spirit. But once you recognize your worth, you develop the discernment to identify where you are genuinely appreciated and where you are being undervalued. You start prioritizing your own growth and happiness over the need for external validation, and in doing so, you cultivate a life of respect, purpose, and fulfillment. Recognizing your worth is the foundation of self-empowerment because it allows you to approach life from a place of confidence rather than insecurity, from a place of strength rather than fear, from a place of abundance rather than scarcity, and from a place where you are no longer willing to allow anyone to take you for granted. Learning to set boundaries is one of the most powerful acts of self-respect and self-preservation you can ever commit to. Boundaries are not walls to shut people out. They are the lines you draw to protect your energy, your time, and your sense of self. Every day, you are bombarded by demands, requests, and expectations from people who may not even consider how much you can handle or what is fair for you. Without boundaries, you are like a sponge, absorbing everyone else's needs, emotions, and pressures, while your own priorities, desires, and well-being are neglected. Many people grow up believing that saying yes to everything is a sign of kindness, loyalty, or love. But the truth is that saying yes when you should say no is a recipe for exhaustion, resentment, and feeling unappreciated. Setting boundaries is not selfish, it is necessary. It is the declaration that you respect yourself enough to know your limits and that you refuse to allow anyone else to diminish your energy or take your generosity for granted. Setting boundaries begins with clarity. You must understand what is acceptable to you and what is not. This requires a deep awareness of your own needs, values, and priorities. Too often, people drift through life reacting to the demands of others without considering whether those demands align with their purpose or well-being. They become exhausted, frustrated, and drained because they never take the time to define the rules of their own life. But when you know what you will and will not accept, when you have clear lines in your mind about your time, energy, and emotional investment, you gain a remarkable sense of control and empowerment. You stop living reactively and begin living intentionally, making decisions that honor your value and protect your peace. It takes courage to enforce boundaries because boundaries are often met with resistance. When you start saying no to certain behaviors, requests, or intrusions, people may push back, complain, or try to guilt you into compliance. This is natural because boundaries challenge the comfort of those who have benefited from taking your time and energy without consideration. But this resistance is not a reflection of your selfishness, it is a reflection of the fact that you are asserting your worth. People may be uncomfortable at first because your boundaries force them to respect limits they may not have recognized before. Over time, however, boundaries create stronger, healthier, and more balanced relationships. They ensure that interactions are mutually respectful rather than one-sided, that love and support are reciprocated rather than exploited, and that your life remains aligned with your goals and purpose. Boundaries also act as a powerful teacher for others. When you set clear limits, you communicate what is acceptable and what is not. You teach people how to treat you without needing to explain your value constantly. You show that your time is precious, that your energy is finite, and that your presence should be honored. Many people fail to set boundaries because they fear confrontation or rejection, but the reality is that avoiding boundaries allows others to take advantage of them, sometimes in subtle ways that erode confidence and self-esteem. By contrast, when you assert boundaries consistently and respectfully, you cultivate an environment where respect is the baseline and appreciation becomes a natural consequence. It is also important to recognize that setting boundaries is not limited to other people, it extends to yourself as well. Saying no to habits, distractions, and commitments that do not serve your growth or align with your values is just as crucial as saying no to the demands of others. Boundaries help you focus your energy on what truly matters, prevent burnout, and create the mental space necessary for creativity, productivity, and fulfillment. They ensure that you are not constantly giving what should be reserved for your own growth and well-being. Another critical aspect of boundaries is consistency. Setting a boundary once and failing to uphold it teaches people that your limits are flexible and negotiable, which can lead to being taken for granted repeatedly. True empowerment comes from maintaining your boundaries firmly, with calmness and confidence, without feeling the need to justify yourself excessively. When you are consistent, you send a powerful message that your time, energy, and well-being are non-negotiable, and this attracts people who respect and value you while gently weeding out those who do not. Ultimately, setting boundaries is a declaration of self-worth and a commitment to your own empowerment. It is a way of saying that your time, energy, and presence matter, that your life has purpose, and that you refuse to be diminished or exploited by anyone. It is a practice that protects your mental, emotional, and physical health while creating stronger relationships, more focus, and a deeper sense of peace. Boundaries give you the freedom to live intentionally, act in alignment with your values, and ensure that your generosity is given to those who deserve it rather than taken for granted. Respect is not something that magically appears just because you exist. It is something that must be commanded, cultivated, and demonstrated through your actions, your mindset, and the way you carry yourself in every situation. Far too many people live their lives waiting for respect to be given, hoping that if they are polite enough, patient enough, or quiet enough, others will eventually recognize their worth. The truth is, respect is not a gift that others hand out freely. It is something you establish by knowing who you are, understanding your value, and refusing to settle for anything less than what you deserve. To demand respect does not mean being aggressive, domineering, or confrontational. It means standing firmly in your integrity, setting your standards high, and living in a way that clearly communicates to others that you are not to be underestimated or taken for granted. When you demand respect, you are sending a signal to the world that your time, your energy, and your presence are not optional, that your contributions matter, and that your boundaries must be honored. Many people confuse respect with popularity, likability, or submission. They believe that if they are agreeable, accommodating, or invisible enough, others will respect them. This could not be further from the truth. True respect begins from within. You must first respect yourself before you can expect anyone else to respect you. This self-respect is reflected in your confidence, your posture, your speech, and the decisions you make. When you are clear about your worth and refuse to compromise on your values, others naturally respond with respect. People respect individuals who carry themselves with integrity, who honor their commitments, and who do not allow their value to be undermined by manipulation, flattery, or pressure. Waiting for respect to come from the outside without cultivating it from the inside is a formula for disappointment, resentment, and missed opportunities. Demanding respect also requires awareness of the energy you project. The way you interact with others, the tone of your voice, your willingness to assert yourself, and your ability to maintain composure in difficult situations all send signals about the level of respect you command. People tend to treat you according to the boundaries you establish and the confidence you exude. If you allow others to interrupt, dismiss, or belittle you without response, you are silently communicating that it is acceptable to do so. But when you consistently assert your value, calmly reinforce your standards, and refuse to tolerate disrespect, you set the stage for a higher level of engagement in all your relationships. You teach people how to treat you, not by demanding it in words alone, but by demonstrating it through consistent action and behavior. Another important element in demanding respect is understanding that it is not conditional. Respect should not depend on your popularity, your wealth, your title, or what others think you can give them. Respect is a recognition of your human dignity, your integrity, and the boundaries you establish. People will attempt to test your limits to see how much they can take from you and to challenge your confidence. This is where inner strength becomes critical. When you are anchored in your understanding of your worth, these tests do not intimidate or shake you. Instead, you respond with poise, clarity, and firmness, sending a message that you are not easily swayed or diminished. You become a person who naturally commands respect because others sense your unwavering confidence and your refusal to compromise your value. It is also essential to recognize that demanding respect is not about controlling or changing others. It is about controlling how you allow yourself to be treated. You cannot force respect from someone who is unwilling, but you can refuse to remain in situations, relationships, or environments where your dignity is ignored or undermined. This requires discernment, courage, and sometimes difficult decisions, but it is necessary if you are committed to living a life where you are valued appropriately. People who live passively, waiting for recognition, often find themselves taken for granted, overlooked, and manipulated. But those who stand firm in their worth, assert their boundaries, and insist on respectful interactions experience freedom, empowerment, and a deeper sense of self-confidence. Demanding respect also inspires those around you. When you model self-respect and insist on fair treatment, you elevate the culture of your environment. Friends, colleagues, and even strangers begin to mirror the respect you show for yourself. By refusing to tolerate anything less than what you deserve, you indirectly teach others how to honor their own worth as well. Respect becomes a reflection not only of how others see you, but also of the standard you set for the way people should engage with everyone in your presence, creating a ripple effect that benefits not just you, but everyone around you. When you understand that respect is something you create through your awareness, actions, and self-confidence, you stop waiting for permission, approval, or validation. You begin to operate from a position of power rather than need, from a place of integrity rather than fear, and from a place where your value is undeniable, unshakable, and unapologetic. Every person you allow into your life, every relationship you nurture, and every investment of your time and energy carries consequences for your growth, your happiness, and your success. Being mindful of who you invest in is not about being cold, judgmental, or selfish. It is about being wise, discerning, and intentional with your most valuable resources, because your energy is finite, your time is limited, and your focus is sacred. Too many people give freely to anyone who asks, often out of guilt, obligation, or a desire to be liked, and in doing so, they allow their efforts, love, and dedication to be wasted on those who neither appreciate nor reciprocate. This is why it is crucial to evaluate the relationships in your life and to determine which ones uplift, inspire, and motivate you, and which ones drain, discourage, and diminish you. Every interaction, every conversation, and every act of support you provide should be a conscious choice, not a default habit that leaves you exhausted and undervalued. Investing your time and energy in the wrong people can have subtle but profound effects on your life. You may not notice it at first, but gradually your optimism, creativity, and confidence can be chipped away by individuals who do not have your best interests at heart. These are people who constantly take without giving, who complain but never contribute, who criticize without offering support, and who treat your efforts as if they are insignificant or optional. When you invest in such relationships, you are not only wasting your energy, but you are also creating a pattern where your value is diminished, your generosity is exploited, and your potential is stifled. By contrast, investing in the right people, those who support, respect, and motivate you, amplifies your energy, expands your opportunities, and strengthens your confidence. These are individuals who see your worth, who celebrate your victories, who challenge you to grow, and who provide support when you stumble. They become the mirrors that reflect your value back to you and the scaffolding that elevates your life to new heights. Being mindful of who you invest in also requires the courage to let go of relationships that no longer serve you. This is often one of the hardest lessons in life because humans are naturally attached to familiarity, comfort, and shared history. Yet, clinging to people who take your efforts for granted, who drain your energy, or who fail to respect your boundaries prevents you from growing into the person you are capable of becoming. Letting go does not mean you are unkind or ungrateful. It simply means you are choosing yourself, your growth, and your future over the comfort of maintaining unhealthy patterns. When you release these relationships, you create space for connections that truly align with your purpose, values, and aspirations. You begin to surround yourself with individuals who encourage your success rather than undermine it, who value your time rather than waste it, and who honor your presence rather than take it for granted. Mindfulness in your investments also extends beyond personal relationships. It applies to the environments you inhabit, the communities you engage with, and the projects you dedicate your energy to. You must ask yourself whether these investments contribute to your growth, expand your knowledge, elevate your mindset, and reinforce your sense of purpose. Many people spread themselves too thin, attempting to be involved everywhere and to help everyone, without considering whether their efforts produce meaningful returns. When you are mindful of your investments, you prioritize relationships, environments, and endeavors that align with your long-term vision and goals. You focus on quality over quantity, depth over superficiality, and impact over mere presence. Being mindful also requires awareness of the subtle energy exchanges in every relationship. Some people may appear supportive on the surface but consistently drain your enthusiasm, create unnecessary drama, or demand attention without giving back. Others may genuinely uplift, inspire, and challenge you in ways that accelerate your personal and professional growth. By observing patterns over time, listening to your intuition, and honestly evaluating the results of your emotional investments, you develop the skill to discern where your energy is truly appreciated and where it is wasted. This discernment is a hallmark of emotional intelligence, personal power, and self-respect. Ultimately, being mindful of who you invest in is a practice of protecting your value, cultivating high-quality relationships, and ensuring that your time and energy are spent on people, projects, and pursuits that honor your worth. It is an act of self-love, a declaration that you will not allow your efforts to be taken for granted, and a conscious decision to surround yourself with those who amplify your life rather than diminish it. It is about creating a network of support, encouragement, and mutual respect that fuels your growth, empowers your potential, and ensures that every investment of your energy contributes to your purpose and your success. Self-awareness is one of the most powerful tools you can ever cultivate, because the moment you truly understand who you are, what you value, and what drives you, you gain the ability to take control of your life in ways that most people never experience. Self-awareness is not just knowing your strengths and weaknesses. It is an intimate understanding of your emotions, behaviors, patterns, and triggers, and the way they shape your decisions, relationships, and outcomes. Many people drift through life unconsciously, reacting to circumstances, letting their fears dictate choices, and allowing others to define their value. Without self-awareness, you leave your life in the hands of chance and the opinions of others, and you risk being taken for granted repeatedly because you have not established a firm understanding of your own needs, desires, and boundaries. But when you develop self-awareness, you equip yourself with a powerful internal compass that guides you in every interaction, decision, and challenge, allowing you to operate from a place of confidence, clarity, and purpose. Self-awareness allows you to recognize patterns in your life, both positive and negative, that influence how you are treated and how you respond to others. You begin to see where you have been overly accommodating, where your energy has been drained, and where your generosity has been exploited. This recognition is not meant to instill guilt, but rather to awaken understanding. Once you see these patterns clearly, you have the opportunity to break them, to redefine the way you show up in relationships, and to set higher standards for how you allow others to treat you. Empowerment comes from this clarity, because when you understand your own tendencies, you no longer operate on autopilot or allow yourself to be manipulated or undervalued. You gain the ability to consciously choose how to respond, who to trust, and where to invest your energy. And this level of awareness transforms every aspect of your life. Being self-aware also means understanding your worth at a deeper level. It is impossible to demand respect, set boundaries, or prioritize your growth if you do not know what you bring to the table, the unique value you offer, and the impact of your presence in any situation. Self-awareness illuminates your strengths, talents, and skills, and it allows you to appreciate your achievements without arrogance, while simultaneously identifying areas where growth is needed without self-criticism. This balanced understanding cultivates humility, confidence, and power simultaneously. When you are aware of your value and your potential, you naturally refuse to allow others to take you for granted, because you recognize the energy, effort, and presence you contribute, and you refuse to let that be dismissed or devalued. Emotional intelligence is a critical component of self-awareness that amplifies empowerment. Understanding your emotions, how they influence your behavior, and how to regulate them allows you to navigate interactions with greater wisdom and effectiveness. People who lack this awareness often overreact, internalize negativity, or allow emotions like fear, anger, or insecurity to dictate their choices. When you are self-aware, you can pause, assess, and respond in alignment with your values rather than reacting impulsively. This ability to manage yourself in every situation creates an aura of strength, stability, and credibility, which naturally commands respect and ensures that others cannot easily take advantage of your generosity, kindness, or patience. Self-awareness also deepens your understanding of your purpose and direction in life. When you are conscious of your goals, passions, and core values, you no longer wander aimlessly or expend energy on things that do not align with your mission. This clarity allows you to focus on what truly matters, to invest your energy in high-impact relationships and endeavors, and to walk away from situations, people, or patterns that diminish your value. Empowerment grows when your actions are intentional rather than reactive, when your priorities reflect your vision rather than external pressures, and when your choices are guided by understanding rather than confusion or fear. Another critical aspect of self-awareness is recognizing the ways in which you contribute to being taken for granted. By honestly evaluating your own behaviors, tendencies, and patterns, you identify moments when you may have been overly accommodating, permissive, or unclear in your boundaries. This is not about blame, but about accountability and growth. Once you see where you have allowed yourself to be undervalued, you gain the ability to make deliberate changes that reinforce your worth, strengthen your presence, and ensure that your energy is respected. Empowerment comes from knowing that you have control over how you show up, how you respond, and how you allow others to treat you. Ultimately, self-awareness is the foundation of personal power. It allows you to understand yourself at the deepest levels, recognize your worth, manage your emotions, navigate relationships intelligently, and make choices that reflect your values and priorities. Without self-awareness, you remain at the mercy of circumstance and other people's agendas. But with it, you step into a life where you are intentional, respected, and empowered, and where no one can easily take you for granted. Too often, people spend their lives seeking approval from others, hoping that validation from friends, family, colleagues, or society will define their worth, guide their decisions, and confirm that they are on the right path. They ask for permission to live, wait for encouragement before taking risks, and measure their value by how others respond to their efforts. This approach leaves you vulnerable to disappointment, manipulation, and a perpetual sense of inadequacy, because the truth is that no one else can determine your purpose, define your value, or dictate the trajectory of your life. Waiting for approval is a trap that keeps you small, dependent, and reactive. Action over approval is the mindset and practice that liberates you from this limitation. It is the decision to move forward, take risks, and pursue your goals based on your own standards, your own vision, and your own understanding of what is right for you, rather than constantly looking to others for validation or permission. Choosing action over approval begins with the realization that your life is yours and yours alone. The opinions of others, while sometimes insightful, are not the measure of your potential or the determinant of your worth. Every great achievement, every innovation, and every breakthrough in history has been the result of individuals who refused to wait for validation, who acted boldly despite skepticism, criticism, or doubt from those around them. When you act without seeking approval, you step into your personal power. You make decisions with confidence, pursue opportunities with clarity, and accept responsibility for the outcomes without being tethered to someone else's approval. This independence is liberating because it frees you to focus on your own growth, your own standards, and your own purpose rather than bending to the expectations or limitations of others. Action over approval also requires courage because it often means going against the status quo, standing apart from the crowd, or making choices that others may not understand. Many people avoid taking decisive action because they fear judgment, criticism, or rejection. They delay pursuing their dreams, starting projects, or expressing their authentic selves because they want to be liked, accepted, or validated. But the reality is that approval is never guaranteed, and those who constantly seek it will always find reasons to delay, doubt, or compromise. Action over approval teaches you that it is far better to take steps toward your purpose, even imperfectly, than to remain stagnant while waiting for someone else's consent. Every step taken, every effort made, and every decision executed strengthens your confidence, hones your skills, and moves you closer to the life you are meant to live, regardless of whether others understand, support, or validate it. Another critical element of action over approval is the ability to prioritize your own standards and goals above external validation. When you act according to your own principles, values, and vision, you become the architect of your life rather than a passive participant in someone else's narrative. You set benchmarks for success based on your understanding of what matters most rather than what will impress others. This clarity allows you to navigate life with focus and intentionality. People who act for approval often scatter their energy trying to please everyone, and in doing so, they compromise their integrity, waste time, and dilute their impact. By contrast, when you choose action over approval, you invest your energy in meaningful pursuits that align with your purpose, amplify your potential, and build a life that is authentically yours. Action over approval also strengthens resilience. When you stop relying on external validation, you become less susceptible to disappointment, criticism, or the fluctuating opinions of others. You develop an internal compass that guides you in making decisions, taking risks, and persevering through challenges. Obstacles become opportunities for growth rather than sources of discouragement because your motivation is rooted in your own standards and goals rather than the fleeting opinions of others. You learn to trust yourself, to honor your instincts, and to measure success by the alignment between your actions and your purpose rather than by how others respond or react. Finally, action over approval creates a life of authenticity and empowerment. When you stop seeking validation from others, you free yourself to express your true self, pursue your dreams boldly, and invest in what matters most without hesitation or fear. You begin to attract people, opportunities, and experiences that resonate with your values rather than attempting to fit into molds designed by others. Your confidence grows, your energy becomes focused, and your life begins to reflect your own vision rather than the expectations or judgments of the world around you. You understand that approval may be fleeting or inconsistent, but your actions, integrity, and commitment to your purpose are permanent, and they are the foundation upon which your respect, fulfillment, and influence are built.